Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Road to Rotation. So last week I misremembered which was the next leader in our series. So instead of Rebecca, which will be next week, we'll be going over Issho today. So Issho is from OP04. He is a green and black leader. He was the first of his kind in this color combination. He is a 5,000 power 4-life leader. With Dawn times 1, your turn, give all of your opponent's characters -1 cost. And then end of turn, you can rest 1 Dawn to set up to one of your characters at the cost of 5 or less as active. So first thing I like to lean into with these videos always is their archetypes. So Issho is a Navy leader. So looking at the Navy that we already have in black, I'm not going to go over those again because I feel like we've gone over them before with a couple of the leaders in the series, but the green Navy is something that was newer to the color pair at the time. So let's go over those, and there's even been some new cards since then as well. First thing to call out here is Rosinante is both Navy and Don Quixote Pirates. Don Quixote Pirates is green, so you may find this one be double searchable, which is quite good. But this one is a 2-cost, 1,000 power, 1k counter blocker with, on your opponent's turn, if your arrested character would be KO'd, you may trash this character instead. So notably, this does work even when he is rested. So if your opponent rests your blocker and to swing into something big, like maybe an 8-cost kid or whatever, you can use this ability no matter what, as long as the thing that you're protecting is rested. And one of the things that will be common with these Rosinante cards is they protect other things, and this is one of the first and actually a very good protection ability, useful against black decks, particular because it only protects from KOs. It doesn't protect from other types of removal, and it's just quite strong in that sense. After that, we have this Tashigi. This one's from OP10. It's a 3-cost, 4k count, 4,000 power with 2k counter. So great for that flexibility. And then if you have a green character other than Tashigi that would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you may rest this character instead. So this one works really nicely with your Rosinantes, because you can kind of use both of them as layered up to protect both active and rested characters from removal. Tashigi's a little bit stronger, but one thing that is also useful is that if your opponent would target something with, say, a gravity, no, a 2 KOs, like a Lucci or something like that, and they targeted Tashigi plus some other character, you can do it where you rest Tashigi to protect the other character, and then you can sacrifice Rosinante to protect Tashigi. So kind of using a chain of protections so that you can end up using this on an active character. So just something to call out. I don't think that it comes up very much anymore. Removal is kind of in a weak spot right now. So these sorts of effects don't come up anywhere near as often as they used to. But it's still good to have an idea of what your 2Ks are going to be when those metas come back. Next up, we have all the way back from STO2, the 4-cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter X-Drake. X-Drake is another one of those double-typed characters. He's Navy and Supernovas, which are two pretty relevant types. So keep that in mind. And then he has the ability Dawn times 1, your turn. If this character is rested, your Supernova or Navy-typed leaders and characters gain 1,000 power. So this can be a really effective buff if you have several bodies on the board. This is 1 Dawn turned into 3 or 4, which is quite useful. And then working with Issho's ability, you can get access to the extra 1,000 power on all of your guys, and then at the end of the turn, set him as active using your leader ability. So nice little synergy in there, which works pretty well. After that, we have another X-Drake. This is a 5-cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter with on play, KO up to one of your opponent's arrested characters, a cost of 4 or less. This one works with the other ability, the Dawn times 1, your opponents get -1 cost. Allowing this to reach a little bit higher, being able to KO a 5 cost for a 5 cost with a 6k body, which is a pretty efficient body, is pretty great on rate. Your opponent has to have rested their body, which won't happen all the time, but particularly with this and some extended kind of KO or cost minus pieces you can get in black in general, you can kind of get pretty far on this, and this can be pretty close to KO for anything that doesn't have KO protection. So another one to watch out for. And the first one on our list here that is at 5 cost, which will be important later when I get to the last card on this this page. After that, we have another 5 cost. This is another Issho. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter with on play. If your leader has the Navy type, rest up to 2 of your opponent's characters, the cost of 5 or less. Look at that. We have some synergy coming in here. You play out Issho, then play out X-Drake. That works well on 10 Dawn. And you get a KO a 4 cost while generating 2 6k bodies. Not necessarily super strong by today's metrics, but it is starting to kind of help form the idea of what this deck might want to do. I do think that one of the cards we'll get into later is probably the ideal card to look at to go with this effect, but definitely started to point in the correct direction. Next up, we have Smoker. This one's from OP10. This is a 5 cost, 7,000 power, no counter with Banish. Very important ability in today's meta with a lot of yellow decks running around trying to hit all their triggers. And then it also has Activate Main, set up to one of your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot set Dawn cards active using character effects during this turn. This Dawn that you set as active is perfect for your end of turn ability, allowing you to protect Smoker or your other cards from being KO'd in combat. Just a great overall ability, synergizing really well, and that Banish ability is super strong on the well-statted body here. After that, we have Tashigi here. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter. Your opponent's turn. If this character be removed from your field by your opponent's effects, you may arrest one of your Dawn cards instead. Built-in protection for herself. And she has Activate Main once per turn. You may rest 2 of your cards. This character gains 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Another way to protect from combat and get some good offense going. This works pretty well with if you have some searchers, maybe a brand new or other low-cost searchers. You can just let them go. You're not going to usually swing with them, so being able to buff up your Tashigi for a turn is a pretty good payoff for that. Also, other things that you can leverage your rested characters with, we have here the 6 cost, 7,000 power, no counter Sakazuki. With on play, if you have 2 or more rested characters, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Another good KO engine, does synergize well with Issho's first ability here, as long as you can get some rested characters, which I do think that this deck probably wants to play relatively tempo-y, not leaning into the KO so much of black, but into something that we've seen more frequently, which is freeze. And I do think that that is quite a meaningful way to go into it. Once you start getting aggressive, though, you do get to get some actual removal here on the Sakazuki. But I think early game you want to play out some 5 costs that can start exerting pressure on your opponent's life total. Hopefully some freezing style effects, and then play out the Sakazuki to kind of keep board and have another good attacker on the turn. Finally, one of the reasons I was calling out the 5 cost things, particularly for green, is this another Rosinante. This one's 8 cost, 8,000 power, no counter. With opponent's turn, if this character is rested, your active characters with a base cost of 5 cannot be KO'd by effects. This is important that it doesn't mention color here, but it does protect any of your 5-drops. It's on play, though. Is on play, you may rest this character, play up to 1 green character card with a cost of 5 from your hand. This one does not mention base cost, so you could have something that is reduced from some greater power to exactly 5, but it does say exactly 5. And on both of those effects, it is exactly 5. So it's something to keep aware of. It can't protect cards that cost other costs. And when you go to play something out, it is only a 5 cost. This does give you a pretty strong play on your 8 Dawn turn. You're potentially getting to play out 13 Dawn worth of stuff, which is quite good. Definitely comparable to some really big powerhouses of today. The biggest downside being he's a little bit smaller than you might see in a modern power level stuff. And he only protects from KO, which we might see a slightly stronger protection ability on that. But I do still think that this is quite a defensible card to be playing in Issho. So those are the green navy cards. So these would all be searchable by our brand news, by our what other navy searches? I feel like there's one more navy searcher in black that I'm forgetting. There is the Kobe event that you'd be able to use to search up all of these cards too. The navy searching package isn't as strong as some of the others. Just the nature of it. They didn't want to give too much to black navy, but there is a good amount of searchability, and you have some kind of inbuilt synergy with navy here that can work pretty well. Moving on to the next category that I wanted to call out, I wanted to call it 5 costs. Obviously, being able to restand something up to 5 cost is really quite powerful, so I wanted to kind of highlight those. There are a couple that we already went over. These are the ones that aren't navy. First up, we have Trafalgar Law. Perfect match for Rosinante. Exactly the card they had in mind when they printed that Rosinante. A really good card to play out. If you are in a good spot where your opponent's not going to be playing removal, you can even use this law to bounce a searcher or some other protection ability. Maybe you've already played a Tashigi out for some reason. You can bounce your 2K back and then play out maybe a different Rosinante or another searcher or something like that. Lots of little things that you can do with this leader. Just reading the ability, because I know that I'm super familiar with this card, but maybe not everyone else is. It is a 5 cost, 6,000 power, no counter blocker. With on play, you may return 1 character to your hand. Play up to 1 character with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So it lets you kind of pick up something that's not being used right now and then play back down something potentially useful as long as it costs 3 or less. Next one we have is the 5 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter Yamato. This is from OP01, just like with the law. And this one has also treat this card's name as Odin, according to the rules. Kazuki Odin, as according to the rules. That's not super relevant, but there are a couple cards that you might find use for in that package. Then it also has double attack and banish. A very potent set of abilities, really strong as an attacker, and then you just use Issho to stand it back up. It only being a 5k attacker is the biggest downside to this card. Otherwise, this card is very strong. It never quite found a home because it never fit quite into the packages of the time. But I do think that this is a very pretty card, and actually, let me pull up the alt art. This original alt art is definitely up there with those original cards as a really pretty, one of those really pretty early cards. And I'm sad to say that it never quite got its time in the sun. After that, we have another Navy card, 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter with blocker, Hina. And she has on block, select up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. The selected character cannot attack during this turn. Really strong as a defensive card. And with Issho and his second ability, you do get to use this more than once. Or in more than one way, because you get to swing with it on offense and then restand it to block and freeze another character. And this is getting into the first sets of cards that I want people to focus on with the freezing effects. Next up, we have 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter Sabo. This is another blocker with on play, none of your characters can be KO'd by effects until the start of your next turn. Then draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. So another one with that nice protection ability. This protects your whole board for 1 turn, on top of being a 5 cost, 6,000 power blocker. Those stat lines are usually going to be strong in almost any meta game. It's just a matter of how you can leverage them. And Issho's ability, giving you the ability to swing with one and then restand it to block on your turn as well, is a pretty strong place to be. You have that defensive ability, plus some of the freeze that we've already talked about. You're getting to a spot where your opponents are going to have difficulties finding good offense against you, because you either have easy blocks with your guys, or you have frozen them from other effects. After that, we have the Jewelry Bonnie here, 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k counter. No blocker this time, but on play, up to one of your opponent's arrested characters or Dawn cards will not become active during your opponent's next refresh phase. This one can be really good as a timing thing. If you know your opponent has a very particular spot on the curve that they really want to play, you can deny them of their curve for one turn in a lot of cases, or just lock down a big attacker. This does not have any restriction on stuff. Maybe you're up against an ace, you get them to do their free block with their Whitebeard, then you slap down Jewelry Bonnie, and then their Whitebeard is frozen for the whole turn. So quite effective there. Next one, this one leads a little more into the removal effects. I don't know that this one will fit in the kind of list that I have cooking up in my head right now, but it is one to keep in mind because it is protected by the Rosinante character. It's black though, so you want to make sure you balance out how many black cards and green cards you have. You want to lean more on the green if you're going to be leaning on Rosinante, but this one does still get the protection ability from Rosinante. But his ability, 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k counter, when attacking. Trash up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. This synergizes with your first ability. Then place any number of character cards with a cost of 4 or more. Your deck is going to have a lot of 5 costs. From your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order. This character gains 1,000 power during this turn for every 3 cards placed at the bottom of your deck. So this can be a pretty potent attacker that you can restand using your leader ability, and getting a trash of usually going to be just a chump blocker or a searcher, but still that's potentially relevant in a lot of games where every point and every card matters. You can deny Mihawks something to rest. You can deny the blockers, those cheap blockers from a lot of people, because this is when attacking, it would go before they get a chance to block. A lot of little things to like about here, even though it is a black card. Next up, we have a really nice one for the deck. 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k counter. Carrot, she has both on play and when attacking, up to one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 7 or less will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. This one is quite strong, and one of the ways that you manage to get rid of a carrot a lot of times is by swinging at it pretty large with a leader swing, which can't be frozen, or with a larger body, and then with Issho's ability, you just stand it back up. So a lot to like with this thing. Again, going into the freeze, we have the Hina, we have the carrot. We'll get into a couple more cards here in a sec. But next up, we have the 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k counter Jewelry Bonnie. This one's from OP12. It's one of the secrets, and it is another blocker with on play. If you have 8 or more rested cards, draw 2 cards and trash 1 from your hand. Then set up to one of your Dawn cards as active. This one, that same stat line we've been talking about a lot this video. Really good defensive thing. And that one Dawn that it sets active at the end of the turn is exactly the kind of Dawn that you need to use the leader ability to protect probably something else. The turn that she comes down, she can both be a blocker, help you restand another blocker, replaces herself. So this hits near about every box that you could want. Particularly nice if you are playing this off of Rosinante, because one of the things playing all of your 8 a lot of times to play Rosinante is a really strong play, but it turns off your ability to use your leader ability that turn. So this one would help you get around it, and because you're resting 8 Dawn for Rosinante, you're automatically meeting the on play for this one. So nice little bit of synergy in there. After that, we have 5 cost 6,000 power, 1k counter Perona. With on play, up to 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase. Another freeze thing here. This one is a little bit different. And you'll notice that all of these things here, this one doesn't actually rest. It just prevents attacks. This one prevents unrests. This one protects unrests. This one protects resting, which is effective at preventing attacks and blocks, but it doesn't do so in a way that interferes with any of the other cards we've seen yet. It also has on KO, you may rest one of your cards, play up to one green character card with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Another thing, if you're running as many 5 costs as I'm kind of envisioning for this deck, this is a great on KO ability. Being able to freeze kind of 2 characters. There's a lot of things kind of all aligning up with this Perona here. Next up, and this one's looking a little bit into the future, we have a 5 cost 7,000 power, no counter, Nico Robin, with if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, this character gains blocker. 5 cost 7,000 blocker, even stronger than 5 cost 6,000 blocker, obviously. And then it also has an on-play, draw 2, trash 2 from your hand. So this is a really effective attacker and blocker at the cost of just getting cards in your trash. The brand new Searcher being one that trashes the rest, and I think the Navy Event Searcher works the same, where you can load up your trash faster than you might expect using black Searchers. So this one I think is quite easy to get turned on and makes for a very effective card once it's active. Finally, for the 5 costs, we have the 5 cost 6,000 power, no counter this time, Monkey D. Carp. With activate main, you may trash 1 card from your hand and rest this character, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So this is going back to the kind of traditional black style. Doesn't fit as well as some of the other ones, but I do think that it could potentially still be pretty potent because it is a repeatable KO engine, essentially giving you something like a finger pistol every turn for free at the cost of just resting your guy, who you get to restand for the following turn. So those are the cards that I kind of wanted to go over in the preliminary stuff. Now I'm going to hop over to the sim and show you guys a list that I have cooked up for Issho. All right, so here we have our deck list that I had thought out. I did a couple games with this one just to see how it worked, and this seemed to work out all right. So as we expected, we're going to have a good number of blockers here. We have Hina and Bonnie and Rosinante, all as strong 5 cost blockers, and then we have a couple Mihawks. These ones didn't come into play as much. Usually I could keep these blockers alive pretty long because I would attack with them and then restand them. And so I was getting a whole lot of value out of just the single ones. So I was getting a lot of block power early. So I didn't need to run quite as many others. Rosinante as a great card on curve to dump out extra threats alongside your blockers. MVPs in the games that I did play, Carrot was really good, Smoker was really good, Perona was really good. The freezing and the extra Dawn here on Smoker were all very good. Dashiki didn't make it too big of a difference here. Removal is at kind of a low in the meta right now, so not too big of a difference. X-Drake came up once or twice. The Zero Vent came up once or twice because we have a good number of bricks here with the Smokers, the Mihawks, and the Rosinantes. And then Shirahoshi, never got to use her, never got to use Suru, never really got to use Tashigi. So all of these 2Ks I think could reasonably be adjusted, and I don't think with the way the deck played out that I needed brand new. So you would have these spot slots to play with here. I imagine you want some amount of protection, or if you're going to run another package of searchability, you could try that. Would not be unheard of to try something like Supernovas, but I do think this Hina was very good and hard for our opponents to figure out how to play around. So I don't know if I would go away from her. But Bonnie was obviously great, and Perona and Carrot were all great. Unfortunately, none of these are all sharing an archetype. So I don't know exactly what I would fill in these slots with. I did feel my 2Ks were purely for 2Ks. The number of them felt about right. You could maybe shave 1 or 2 if you were trying to fit in other stuff. But But yeah, this felt pretty strong. Maybe you would want to play something pretty generic and play the 5-cost law as ways of just generating some card advantage. Some package alongside that, actually, that makes the Supernova package a little more attractive there, because you could run the Bonnie, who you would be able to protect with Issho on turns that you didn't have something else to do, turning her into essentially a 3-cost searcher that can keep getting used over and over, but definitely potentially reasonable here. And then you could fill in your 2Ks with supernovas and maybe swap out for some different supernovas. The first time I tried it, I did try it with the A-Drop Kid. The problem with A-Drop Kid, of course, is that you're a 4-life leader and you don't have a lot of inbuilt card advantage like Red-Green Law does. So I found that I just ran out of cards and then wasn't able to protect the A-Drop Kid. But yeah, this is where I was there. I do think that this was kind of fun to build around. It definitely felt like a very green deck, pretty much running Hina as a great card, but otherwise just a green deck. So this would probably work pretty well in other green deck packages. You would want some way to protect your characters, though, because that was definitely, I think, the piece that made this deck feel functional, is being able to play out my guys on curve or with kind of minimal off-curveness, and then get the Issho ability. So you'd want a little bit of extra Dawn Restanding if you can find it, just to protect all of your guys. But yeah, I was surprised at how well this one felt. This is definitely not a leader that I had on my radar very much. The only times that I faced it were way back in OP04, and it didn't have the tools it needed at the time, so it did not perform very well when I faced up against it. But now, moving on to next week, we will 100% be doing Rebecca next week. I have double-checked my order, and Rebecca is going to be next week, which will be interesting because we have a new Rebecca coming soon. I might even be able to kind of theorize about what the black-purple or black-blue Rebecca might be able to leverage from the new stuff, maybe going into the extra regulation, which would be a fun little side discussion now that we're getting close enough to it to see some cards that are going to go into that time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.